It's the end of the road for Scott Quigg, but perhaps the start of something special for Jono Carroll. This is After the Bell, Mirror Fighting's boxing show in association with Betfair.
Hey is the WBA heavyweight champion of the world!
Float like a butterfly and sting like a bee.
The Mirror brings you After the Bell in association with Betfair.
Welcome to this week's After the Bell. I am delighted that Declan Taylor is finally on board with the white shirt after 14 episodes.
George didn't get the memo.
Just George to go now, but we will continue to work on him. To more serious business, and it looks like the end of the road for Scott Quigg after his stoppage defeat. Well, the towel came in the 11th round against Jono Carroll. A good performance by Carroll, but George, he's not, I don't think he's officially confirmed, but Scott Quigg retired now in all but name. He was never really in the fight, was he?
No, he wasn't. He couldn't get going, or not to take away from Carroll, he probably wasn't allowed to get going, but it was sort of a flat performance. And I thought a couple of times where he looked like he'd been hurt with body shots, and on quick glance you think it's a headshot, but actually it's sort of the hands were down, the touch lower, leaving his face a bit exposed. Carroll stuck to his game plan box really well. Looked a much bigger man. The record doesn't suggest he's a big puncher, but he definitely got a bit of a dig there. And I think he hurt Quigg early, and Quigg just couldn't get in the fight at all.
We'll remember Quigg, of course, he was world champion. He had that fight with Carl Frampton, with Oscar Valdez. Declan, it's quite a sad way to go, certainly, but at least he instantly recognised that was it. There was no sort of pretense that he can come again.
No, it was quite nice, quite refreshing to see straight away in the ring when they interviewed him, which I thought was a bit strange considering that, he'd had a hard fight. Maybe he wanted to go back to the dressing room, but he was very honest there. I've seen interviews, all over YouTube since then, and he's been totally honest about it. He's dedicated his whole life to the sport. He's been in there now years and years. Literally, he'd go on holiday to LA so he could go to wildcard sparring. He never basically hadn't had a day off apart from being injured in however long. So because of that, he says that's given him the peace of mind where he's like, right, I've given everything I possibly could. I've got nothing left. That's me done, which is really nice to see, refreshing to see. But yeah, a tough watch. It was hard to watch at times because it wasn't like he was, a million steps behind Carroll, or Carroll's a different level to him, but he was just that half a second too late on everything. And obviously that is more than enough in boxing, and Carroll was razor sharp, and it was like from the very start you just thought, okay, it's not a 50-50 fight. Actually, everyone said the whole little caveat of the week was, if Quigg's got something left, this is a 50-50 fight. He didn't, and he admitted it, and tough night for him, tough watch for his fans, but yeah, great career.
The towel did come in the 11th round, George. There was a lot of talk, really from 6-7, that it should have come in. It looked like Anthony Crawler seemed to be suggesting to Joe Gallagher that it should come in. He took his time. Hard decision to make, obviously, but do you think it came in a bit too late?
Well, now with hindsight, you say yeah, because he got stopped anyway, and it would have been nice for him to have got stopped, for him not to have taken those punches in, the 9th, 10th round, for example. But it's a difficult decision for Joe Gallagher, definitely a difficult decision at that point, because essentially, are you throwing the towel in on someone's career at this stage? Scott Quigg, definitely like all fighters, but definitely at the top end of being a proud fighter, a former world champion. He obviously doesn't want to be stopped. He wants to give himself the best opportunity. Now, as I say, now with hindsight, it would have been better if it was stopped a couple of rounds earlier. But I sympathise with Gallagher a little bit, that it is a real difficult decision to make. And he wasn't winning the rounds and he was taking shots, but he kind of wasn't really out on his feet either. Yeah. It didn't seem like he was going to pull something out the bag, but Gallagher's an experienced coach, worked with a lot of fighters. Maybe he thought that there was a possibility there, and I don't know what their relationship was like now. Because they seemed real tight. Years ago, but Quigg spent time away, worked with other coaches, and so maybe the connection wasn't quite there, that sort of that feel of really, really knowing your fighter. So, I think, I've got to say it could have been stopped a little earlier, but, It's definitely a tough call, really tough call.
You made a good point just before we came on, Declan, that at least Quigg now knows that if it's been stopped 6-7,
yeah, he might have got
maybe-
the itch. He might have got the itch if he'd thrown it in early and Quigg's gone, hold on, so I've got something left in the tank here. I reckon I was getting to him. Then he might have thought, I could have another one, or I need another one because I didn't get that closure, but he did get the closure. Thank God he's okay, he's healthy. Actually, as far as we could tell from after that fight, it was a punishing one. No complaints from anyone if it had come in earlier, but I don't know. I think still, even with the separation and whatever else, I still think in boxing terms, no one would know Quigg as well as Joe Gallagher at that point, probably. So I'm sure he's seen him in spars have a hard time and turn it around or do something. So he's probably just trying to give him his best chance. And like you say, it's not like he'll live to fight another day because he's 25 or whatever. The fact was that was probably going to be his last one, particularly after that performance. So Joe's probably just thinking, I'll give him his best chance now. But the fact is, at that weight, at super feather, he's not going to be physically imposing enough or have the power like he did at super bantam, where he can really turn anything around at that point, especially when he's tired and when he's been hit with a lot of shots. But yeah, I think because of the nature of the ending and how late it came and how difficult a performance it was for him, he won't get that itch. He'll go, right, that's me.
Of course, no matchmaking to do for Scott Quigg, but interesting to see where he goes from here. Perhaps he'll, train alongside Joe Gallagher, perhaps some sort of assistant trainer. I'm not sure he's one for television, for analysis. He's got to face that question now.
I think he's got a good boxing brain. You know, he's definitely a student of the sport. You know, you say he lives and breathes it. He's on holiday and he wants to be in the gym. So never been the best at selling fights, granted, so that might not be why TV might be the right role for him, but definitely if he wants to stay in boxing, he'll definitely be a valuable asset for someone, as a coach saw Crawler in the corner, so them guys in that part of the UK, they do love to be in the gym, so yeah, I mean, it'd be nice for him to probably just have a rest. He probably just wants a bit of a break, and now when he was up at super feather, then he's the things that worked for you before just don't work for you anymore. And sometimes you just can't put a finger on it. And I feel like that was kind of where he's at now. The style of fighting that worked when he was, he probably had to kill himself to get down to super bantam, but the benefits he got from that on fight night made him become a world champion. He just can't carry that at the new weight division. So. And that happens to a lot of fighters. So good for him. Hopefully it wasn't just a knee-jerk reaction to probably what felt like pressure from everyone that, this was make or break for you and it didn't work out, so you've got to call it a day. Hopefully he does have some time to reflect and he's really happy and proud of his achievements because they've been phenomenal and he can be at peace. And if he's got that itch, then to put it into boxing another way. You say maybe in the gym, maybe coaching, maybe advising. I wouldn't even mind seeing him behind the camera, just to listen to his insight and a bit of his analysis. And it wouldn't take him long to get his words out well and see what he knows because he's been there.
I think I've spent a lot of time covering him, particularly around the Frampton fight and all those fights there. And he's very, very bright, intelligent, and when he talks about boxing, he clearly knows what he's on about because he's spent so much time around it. And you just listen to his interviews that he's done post-fight, and he's clearly. He clearly knows what he's trying to get across. And I think sometimes, as a reporter, what happens is when you're speaking to a boxer or any sportsman, because they're like, right, you could turn me over if I say something funny here, or they're on the edge because they're thinking, right, I can't slip up or want to. Then they sort of changes them a little bit. And then I think if you've got nothing to sell anymore, i.e. you're no longer a boxer and you're now analysing a fight and you're getting paid to stand there and talk about what you're seeing, sometimes that changes people completely. I think of like footballers like Robert Pires and stuff like that. Now he's a totally different character. Paul Scholes, another one. Couldn't get a word out of him when he was a player. As soon as he's a pundit, totally different game. He knows it all. So I think Scott Quigg could have a career there. I see him more in the gym because, like I said, he hasn't spent a day out of it for however long since he was a kid. So it's interesting to see how he deals with that. And I was going to mention to you, like, how does it feel like now on the Monday when he's waking up, no longer a boxer? That must be a weird one. And you're attacking your first week as a civilian, as you put it.
As a civvy, yeah. Back on Civvy Street.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's kind of different. Hopefully, he doesn't feel like he's been forced out of boxing. I feel like the guys who've forced to retire because they're told they ain't got it no more, or they got injuries and stuff like that, then there might be that bit of needle there. But I don't know. You live. People say to me like, "What do you do?" And then sometimes I get a bit embarrassed. I do a podcast on a Monday, you know? Trying to think of stuff to fill the week with, because otherwise,
look at new cars.
And people are they're worried for you that you've got no purpose, but actually, you miss out on so much being a fighter that you have to dedicate yourself to it. That it's nice to have that bit of breathing room, that bit of breathing space. And he's been in some big fights. Hopefully, he's got a bit of money and some assets put aside where he's not having to throw himself back into something to get by, and can enjoy himself and go at a slightly slower pace, and then give himself a bit of time to figure out what he wants to do. As long as you don't take my job here on a Monday, I'll be all right.
He's got loads of white shirts, so.
Has he?
Yeah.
Of course, Quigg's below par performance made it perhaps slightly easier for Jono Carroll, but nevertheless he still had to get the job done. His second fight since his defeat by Tevin Farmer, as I say, did the job, clinical. He looked quite good.
And he's clearly improving, getting better. You mentioned his record there. He didn't really stop anyone in his first 10 fights. I think he had one. And now he's doing that, and he looks like a real handful. His movement's great. He's a good character. People seem to like him. I think he's a really good member of that little mix there at super feather. It's a tough division, obviously, to win a world title, but I'm looking forward to seeing a lot more of him. I saw a tweet from Kevin Byrne. He works on The Sun, I think, in Ireland, and he's very well informed on Irish boxing, and he said that Sky had basically told him before, we're actually not interested in you on Sky, mate, maybe another time. And now he's in the headline fight, really doing a number on one of what used to be one of Sky's real totem guys, and so I think it would have been extra sweet for him for that. And that means he's boxed Tevin Farmer now over there in America. He's done that. I think he's still reasonably young. I think it's exciting times for him.
Difficult to know what's next. He'll rise in the IBF rankings once again. He's already fought for that title, now held by Joseph Diaz. One suggestion is Martin J. Ward, both in the top 10. Easy enough fight, you'd think, to make a good pay-per-view filler, if you like. Get it on the undercard.
You're going to say pay-per-view.
No.
Oh, no.
give it a few
you
months.
You never know, yeah.
But, a good domestic clash. The winner goes on to fight for potentially another world title.
Yeah, it'll be a great profile fight again in the UK, two Brits. Ward he's itching to get on and be involved in big fights. He's boxing really well of late. No doubt he would have watched the boxing at a weekend and want to fight Carroll, because he wants to be headlining the big shows. So that's a real good fight. Yeah, he might nudge him. He'll definitely nudge the winner up the IBF rankings. They might. I haven't got the rankings in front of me, but no doubt the other divisions as well. So so that's definitely a great fight.
Want to make Eddie Hearn, both fighters 10-11 with Betfair, should that one ever come to fruition. A quiet weekend coming up in boxing, but next up we will take a look at Shakur Stevenson's latest outing. A relatively quiet week in boxing, as we said, this weekend, but in New York on Saturday, Shakur Stevenson returns the latest defence of his featherweight world title. He takes on Miguel Mariaga. Got that right?
Yeah. I never heard of it.
To be fair, I think we'd all hoped for Shakur Stevenson, Josh Warrington to be at least announced by now, perhaps for May. Warrington, since that was talked about, has moved back to Eddie Hearn, and that's gone quiet. But credit to Stevenson for fighting again so soon, defending his title again. And no doubt, George, he is one of those ones to watch in 2020.
Yeah, I think so. He's a great talent. He's fun to watch. And obviously we're keeping an eye on him as Brits, wanting to see when the Warrington fight, if and when, will be announced, will be made. So I'm not sure moving to Matchroom, now DAZN, whether that makes it easier or harder. I'm not sure, but he should win Stevenson this weekend. But great talent, great talent.
I'm going to call him Miguel.
Yeah.
Fought Lomachenko
Mariaga.
before.
Yeah.
Obviously, tough task for anyone, but looking at the odds, as George says, 25-1 on Shakur Stevenson with Betfair. probably another chance just to simply showcase his skills.
Yeah, I think that's more of a reflection of how good Stevenson is rather than... he's a decent opponent, especially at this stage. Stevenson, he's one of those guys in that sort of Floyd Mayweather mould where he looks happy to cruise a fight. Actually, he's, when he gets in control, he's just going to, like you say, showcase what he's about. I expect that's what will happen here, get in control pretty easy and just box his way to reasonably straightforward victory. So what we really want to see him in with someone who totally messes all that up, which is obviously Warrington. That's gone totally quiet as a result of the change, I guess, in promotional circumstances. But hopefully that's one that we'll see down the line. Stevenson clearly wants to fight anyone like he would, but as a real blue chip prospect, like a real one of the top prospects in the whole world, they're not going to mess around with him. And I mean, he's no longer a prospect; he's world champion. But he's still young, and they want to make it. They want to plot that path perfectly. Bit of a dodgy purple tracksuit. I saw him in Vegas the other week during the Wilder Fury fight, and a few of us spoke to him, and he's got that little bit of Mayweather sort of about him, that aura about him, and he, the way he talks and stuff. He's clearly a very confident kid, and I just love to see someone like Warrington just chuck a spanner in the works and really see what he's about. I mean, he was saying he'd come to Leeds for it. I've always said that's fanciful. I can't see him allowing him to come to Leeds, to be honest. But that would be amazing if they did that at Ellen Road. But I mean, it seems a long way off because it's not going to happen this summer. You would assume. So then you're talking next summer at the earliest.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of world champions these days fight twice a year, George. That seems to be sort of the go-to sort of schedule. It'd be good to see someone. I know he is young, so he's got plenty of time, but good to see Stevenson just rattling them out.
Yeah, I suppose if his body's feeling good and he can get away with it, then he will do. Lots of times it's twice a year because it just takes that much time to put the plan in place, book the venues, get the opponents ready, and then obviously doing the training and then recovering after. But being a young guy, probably doesn't take him quite as long, so he doesn't need a 12-week camp, might only need an 8-week camp. And because he's in the gym keeping busy, he won't need so much time after to recover because he hasn't pushed it so hard to get fit in the first place. But yeah, no, full credit to him. I mean, you go back through history and you see the guys, how many fights they used to have is it's extraordinary. So it can be done, but 2 years enough, I suppose, if you're getting paid. Well, me personally, anyway.
Well, short and sweet this week. But next up, we will take a look at what's making the news in boxing. It's not official quite yet, but it looks like Canelo Alvarez has chosen Billy Joe Saunders for his next fight, May 2nd in Las Vegas. It was basically between him and Callum Smith, George. It looks like they both had the same offer at one point. Eventually, Saunders has taken the bait, £7 million. Not bad for a night's work. As a former super middleweight world champion, how do you... Okay, first of all, was that the right choice by Canelo if he's choosing the easier fight for him, if you like?
Yeah, I think it's more about commercially maybe Saunders might be a better sell than Smith, especially here in the UK. I think in the States it wouldn't really matter. There's loads of people are up in arms about we not knowing details, but no doubt that's just Canelo's camp just having everything in their own favour. They've got the date. They probably had in mind who they've been training for a long time, and the less notice you give your opponent, the better. Bits and pieces that I've read is that DAZN are trying to put in place some dates and some opponents for Canelo and map out his next 18 months or whatnot, and he's not too happy about that. He's got a Golden Boy. He's still his promoters, as more probably his management agents, taking care of his scheduling and his fighting. But I'm not surprised they've gone with Saunders, super middleweight world champion. Canelo having the WBA regular super middleweight belt, which I think he still has, and Smith having the super middleweight championship. That would have been nice because then it would have... Right, there's only one WBA champion now. But he's, in that way, he hasn't actually picked up another world title. So maybe this is an added carrot for taking Saunders. But by all accounts, it sounds like Saunders just said, yeah, sure, whatever, I'll take the first offer. Smith thought there was going to be a bit of back and forth negotiation, and he was never in line for it. It was just probably just to hurry up and get Saunders to sign by, having options. But May 2nd, it's not a million miles away. You want to be in the gym, be fit and be healthy and be on your way for a mega fight for Saunders.
I'm not convinced Saunders is someone, Declan, who looks after himself too well in between fights. So, as George says, it's not that long.
No, it's not that long. I guess, I know he's been in training. You can see that he's been hard at work and just waiting for the call because he knew that he was in the mix. So he's not stupid to think, right, I'll just wait to the call and then I'll get in the gym. But I guess it's different. I'm sure you all agree it's different when you're sort of training, hoping for a date. And when you get one and you're like, right, it's signed and you're getting £7 million, this is the big chance. Because let's not forget, he's spoken for, I can't remember how many years about, I want Canelo, I want Golovkin. He signed to fight Golovkin in Kazakhstan, all that sort of stuff, and it never happened. I think Golden Boy weren't so sure about Saunders because of what he did to David Lemieux when they paid him a lot of money to go to Canada. They expected Lemieux to knock him out and win his belt, and then they could go ahead with that. Obviously, Saunders ruined all those plans. Went over there, he's funny in press conferences. He winds people up. I think that would have been appealing to him compared to Callum Smith, who's far more quiet, reserved. Not that many people in America know him like they do Saunders because of the Lemieux fight and various other things. So I think commercially it's a better, more attractive option for Golden Boy and for DAZN. It's a hard one. Who's the easier fight or who's the harder fight for Canelo out of the two, because they're totally different. But I think, I don't know, 4-1 is a bit measly on Saunders. I would expect a little bit more than that, because he's surely not going to knock Canelo out. Surely he's not. He's not a big puncher. His hands are, not conducive to knocking people out. And then he's going to be in Las Vegas, where he's going to really have to beat Canelo up to get any sniff of a points decision. So I just can't see how he wins a fight. Can't see it.
It's ludicrous, really, George, that we have to talk about the idea of if you've got a 12-round fight, you win 7 rounds, you win the fight, right? That's the simple way of looking at it. But Declan's right. He's got to go in there thinking either you win those 7 rounds absolutely so convincingly that no one can possibly ever argue, or you have to win 8, 9, 10 rounds to get an order.
Yeah, there is that element, but more so it's about people's perception. It's about going into this fight, no one's going to give Saunders a chance. So if it's relatively close, people are just naturally going to sway with Alvarez. The commentary, you might be listening to it, and anytime Saunders does anything well, it's maybe a little bit unnoticed, and then because they're forever talking about the class of the other guy, you kind of see it time and time again. And that's what he's really going to be up against. But he can't really focus on that. He just has to go out there and give his best, because one, that's pretty much all he can do, and two, he's really up against it. He's a career middleweight. He's only just moved up to super middleweight. Likely is for the opportunities, because I have heard him say he can make middleweight if he wants to. Whereas Callum Smith, on the other hand, who is a huge super middleweight, probably could easily fit in at like heavyweight division. So another reason maybe why he's favoured in that respect. This might have been the fight that he's been promised by Eddie Hearn, and that's the whole reason he signed with Matchroom in the first place. That we will get you Golovkin or Canelo, and Smith has never had that promise, so Smith was never in the running in that respect anyway. So I think Saunders just needs to, he as long as he's kept his weight down up until this point, now, and therefore he must be in the gym to keep your weight down, and he hasn't been, partying and whatnot. Relatively healthy, detoxed, weight down. Now, at this stage, early March for an early May fight date, yeah, he can perfectly go into camp and be more than ready come fight night. You're definitely right. Until you get that date, it's hard to really focus in, to knuckle down, to make the sacrifices, to just be focused and get absolutely every ounce of yourself out of a gym session, day in, day out, which now will be. It's great money if that is the purse, mega money, because the truth is, They don't need to pay you that much. You still have to take the fight, because if you don't want to take it, someone else will. And if you win, which you as a fighter will always believe you will win, well, then it just opens up the door for, crazy offers and crazy potential matchups. So I'm sure he's in a real positive frame of mind. He'll be working hard, and he'll be looking to try and shock a lot of people. He's looked so terrible at times, Saunders, so flat, so average, but that don't mean he's not going to rise to the occasion.
Yeah, I think he's one of them where he's like, he needs a good opponent, someone to beat. He needs someone better than him, really, to bring the best out of him.
Well, yeah, definitely. I mean, a lot of people are like that, but his friend Tyson Fury actually reminds me a lot of the same. Like, he really does obviously rise to the occasion, and then if he's in with a subpar opponent, he really does, like, you're scratching your head thinking, is this guy ever going to get there? Saunders may be very much the same, but he's in with, for me, the best fighter in the world right now. Coming off the back of a knockout win against Kovalev at light heavyweight. Would you say that Saunders could knock Kovalev out? I'd be more arguing that he should go back down to middleweight. So bizarre. Yeah.
I suppose that's the little asterisk at the end of this fight, though, isn't it? Like, can Saunders raise his game? But the other side, the Lemieux fight was more than 2 years ago. It's fine to keep saying, oh yeah, he did it then, but since then, he's not just been poor, like as you said, the last time in LA, he was dreadful.
Yeah, and he wasn't great against Shefat Ifusi when he won the belt in Stevenage. Wasn't great, but again, an opponent who's levels above. Clearly, he knows that after 10 seconds. He knew that all through the camp. But it's hard, isn't it? Because it's not just raising your level, but it's raising it and then actually you still have to beat Canelo, who's in front of you. And even if it is close, which I think it's going to be closer than a lot of people think, the rounds are going to be... I think there's going to be spells in this fight where not a lot happens, because Saunders is going to be moving around a lot, making him miss, probably not making him pay all that much, because Canelo's also elusive as well when he wants to be. So I think there's going to be spells where nothing happens. That ain't going to be good for Saunders, because Canelo's going to have all the credit in that sense. But he's got his chance now. He can't say he hasn't. He's going to get well paid for it. I think he's going to do a lot better than a lot of people think, particularly in America, where people think he's got no chance. I think it's going to be a frustrating night for Canelo. I don't think he's going to look particularly good, which is really what Golden Boy have been trying to do for years. Ever since the Erislandy Lara fight, they said, well, actually, we just need someone to stand in front of him. That's why you got Kirkland. You got all these different people that he boxed, even Kovalev to an extent, because they knew what they were going to get. And credit to Eddie Hearn, actually, last year at the presser when they announced Saunders signed with Matchroom, he said they're going to fight Kovalev in September. And then I think Billy Joe's going to get this date. He said it back then, he just had a feeling. He said if they didn't, then he was going to match Smith and Saunders, which hopefully we get at some point down the line. But like you say, George, it's not one that you can turn down, no matter what the money is. But I don't know. I just see it. I think it was a really tough night for him in terms of. I think it's going to be frustrating for him.
How do you see it play out, George?
I think, Canelo wins. I think he wins quite comfortably, to be honest.
Points.
No, I think he stops him. I mean, he looks like a real force of late. Yeah, he punches hard. I think I think we see Saunders unfit a lot of the times, because if the opponent ain't there, he might leave it late. He might not have the discipline, and therefore he's not quite fit and he can't get his work off, and he maybe has to crash the weight as well. This time, even if he is fit and he hasn't crashed the weight, it's still gonna be, the performance against Lemieux is not going to be. Lemieux is not Canelo. Yeah. I just think he's a guy who suits with middleweight better than Saunders does. I think he'll be able to creep into range and be able to punch with him. And being able to punch with him is Saunders got a hand speed where he's going to try and keep it long and hit a move, but I don't think it's going to be enough. I think Canelo stops him. Might be wrong. Hope I am wrong, but that's probably my prediction.
Not much value in Canelo. He is 7-1 on with Betfair, as Dick mentioned. Saunders 4-1. That fight takes us nicely into discussion about DAZN's arrival in the UK. That will be the first one on the streaming service. So this fight won't be on Sky, won't be on box office. At the moment, I think DAZN, they won't be showing the Matchroom shows in the UK. It'll be the Matchroom USA shows. Anthony Joshua will still be on Sky, but that could all change next year when those contracts are up. Do we think this is a shifting in the landscape?
Yeah, I think times are changing. You can't buy toilet roll anymore. You can't buy super noodles. And now boxing is going to be on DAZN in the UK. I think is a big shift. Put it this way, I don't see this shift happening and DAZN coming in, them fading away, and Sky and your traditional networks coming back up again. I think this is only going to go one way. Yeah, it's interesting. Obviously, Joshua's not part of that, and the ordinary fight nights. But all these contracts are kind of up for discussion as we speak. I can't imagine Sky are particularly happy with this. I'm sure they'd be pretty worried actually, because the whole model is totally different and at odds with their market and what they're looking at doing. I would assume, I don't know, it's just more of a guess, but obviously DAZN and Matchroom are in cahoots so much in America, where Eddie got the $1 billion deal and all that sort of stuff, that surely the plan is for them to work with Matchroom in the UK eventually as a exclusive deal like they got with Sky, I guess, and then Sky will go somewhere else. But I'm not sure where they would go, what fighters they would like, whether they actually would assess it and think, actually, we could just do all our money for football now, so we'll forget boxing. Don't know. Then where does that leave BT? Does that mean they're going to push harder? Are they going to introduce more over-the-top stuff and streaming and whatever else? But I think it's clearly a sign of the times. It's happened in America. It's happening here. I guess it's good news for fans, but they're still going to have to pay again. They're going to have to pay another subscription. They got plenty of money because they can't buy any toilet roll, so maybe they'll be all right. And then in the end, we're all going to be stuck at home, so watching DAZN will be happy days.
Could be quite a change, George. If you think back to way back when Eddie Hearn first got his deal with Sky, that was a change for them, having previously sort of spread out their shows among promoters. But although it's a softly approach to start with, Dick's right. Sky could very quickly find themselves squeezed out of all this.
Yeah. The thing that boxing has that pretty much all the other sports don't have on Sky is they sell pay-per-views, and that box office means that it actually makes money. They're not just spending license fees to show and hope that people will subscribe off the basis of that. They get a clear indication of what works and what don't by the amount of people that are paying for one event, and they're not going to surrender that. DAZN, a streaming service that's now coming in when you look at Netflix and even Amazon Prime, is not exactly the same, because I think I've got Amazon Prime at home because I just decided to order all that toilet roll and get it delivered for free, So other than that, like Netflix is now, what now all these companies are looking at, and the biggest sport version I think at the moment is DAZN, unless there is something else out there, and they were definitely coming to the UK at some point. But Matchroom, not just Matchroom Boxing, Matchroom, the company, have so much content with Sky and have such a tight relationship with Sky. You did wonder, like, something's going to give, and it's going to be down to the people at Matchroom decide, do they stay with Sky or do they go with DAZN? Who wants them most, maybe? But it could be a real interesting shake-up in the UK boxing market if a big force like DAZN come in. They're going to have to come in and spend some big money to start with to get people signed up and streaming. So they're going to have some big UK shows, and everyone's been wanting to gravitate towards Matchroom to box on Sky, because then you've got the possibility of boxing on Sky box office and making the most amount of money, unless there is like tournaments like that I went in the World Boxing Series, where again big investment came in. Callum Smith's earned more money in the World Boxing Series than he did fighting on other shows. So but they're only ad hoc tournaments for a handful of fighters. DAZN come in, are the entire Matchroom stable going to go with them, or because loads of them, what you consider Matchroom fighters, are actually just almost freelance. They're not tied into a contract. Eddie Hearn and that doesn't want the obligation of having to put them out so often. So if they're useful, then puts them out. If not, then they have to wait, or they can move around. Sky will be fighting hard to keep pay-per-view fighters. Hopefully, it means that the level of competition goes up as opposed to just the standard of pay-per-view goes down.
We're already seeing that though.
we might be seeing that, and and that's to each opinion. And sometimes you get in trouble for telling the truth. But I agree. I remember when I went to watch Carl Froch against Butte on a free-to-air. It might have been Friday, but I think they were doing Friday. Well, it was a Saturday night show, And then you think, would you ever see that again? Would it not be on pay-per-view? You wouldn't. Every now and again, you get a great Saturday fight night like we had last weekend, Quigg and Carroll, but that's just because the situation Quigg was in. Because if there was a belt involved or not, it wouldn't have made it onto a Saturday fight night. We're having pay-per-views now without a significant belt on the line. Dylan White is headlining. He's the A side of every pay-per-view now. Never boxed for a world title. It's amazing. So it'll be interesting. It'll be fascinating to see if DAZN do launch. It'll be interesting to see. I'm sure the guys behind the scenes at Sky and DAZN and Matchroom know what's happening already, but who will fill that void at Sky? Because someone will. They will definitely stay in boxing for the pay-per-view revenue.
Maybe they'll go MTK route, and obviously they've been doing the golden contract and stuff. Maybe there's a deal to be done there, and they'd show MTK fighters or something like that. But I think this all depends on how aggressively DAZN go in with the pay-per-view, because obviously Canelo is on DAZN now, so he's no longer a pay-per-view fighter, whereas he was 2 dates a year, get all the buys, make a load of money twice a year, basically. And then DAZN said, well, why don't you just take whatever it was, 360 million quid for the next 5 years, and you'll fight this many times. You might have to fight Golovkin now, but for the most part, you're going to pick and choose an appropriate opponent. Go, yes, please, I'll sign that, rather than hedge your bets. You might get injured, miss a pay-per-view, who knows? So if they start doing that in the UK and offering people the chance to make a set amount of money for the next couple of years or whatever, then people are going to do that, because there's only so many slots of pay-per-view on Sky. I know we seem like they're happening a lot, but it's actually not as, it's pretty rare. And there's all these fighters trying to get on pay-per-view because that's where the money is. But if DAZN come in and say, well, forget pay-per-view because you're not really going to get on it anyway, and if you do, you're not going to do that many buys, we can offer you this. I think if they're even half as aggressive as they are in America, they're going to pick up a lot of people. And then fans have got no choice but to have DAZN. It's going to be one of them where if you want to watch boxing, you've got to have it, a bit like Sky is now.
You think, as you say, if because I remember, I might be wrong, but when DAZN was launched in the US, I think you pick it up a year subscription for $100 or something like that.
It was like $10 a month or something.
And you think, if you're going to buy 4 Sky pay-per-views and spend £100 and you've only got 4 boxing shows to watch, and yet for the same, if it was £100 subscription for the year for DAZN, you think, well, I'm going to watch boxing every other week, or how often they can put it on.
And it wasn't only that. They had the Super Series, they had the rights to the Super Series, they had all the Sky shows, and they had obviously the DAZN shows that Eddie was putting on, then all the other sports. So it's an absolute no-brainer. I think the price has gone up a bit, but when it started, and I think that's what they'll do here. They'll offer a reasonably attractive price, and they'll say, well, look what you're going to get for it. To be honest, a lot of people would pay pay-per-view money for Canelo Saunders, even if it is at 4 a.m. or whatever. So people think, I'll just pay for DAZN. I think they did one free month, actually. So you got a free month, and then, like you say, $10 for the month. So it's $100 a year, 65 quid or whatever. It's like people are ready to pay that. And I think we'll see that here.
But they will need the numbers. I mean, you think they've put $1 billion just into boxing, and you think, right, well, just to recoup that, how many subscriptions do they need, and what's their target, and how quickly do they need that money back? Because if they don't get it, and it goes on for a few years, and then all of a sudden they start cutting back, or it just doesn't work out, it's a Satanta situation or something, then I don't know, maybe everyone goes scrambling back to Sky. Who knows?
It sort of feels like a double-edged sword for the fan here, because thinking about May 2nd, Josh Taylor fights in Glasgow, BT Sport subscription. Dylan White Alexander Povetkin, Sky Sports box office in Manchester. Canelo Saunders, hours later, DAZN subscription.
It's a pricey night.
So if you want to watch all 3 fights, then there will be plenty of people who, well, certainly 2 of the 3. It's a lot of channel changing and having to figure out what's on. I know you've had trouble trying to watch BT the other week. But also expensive. You know, £25 probably, or £20 for the pay-per-view. I think DAZN will be a £5, and then you've got to be subscribed to BT. So it's not going to be necessarily easy for fans to afford all that.
No, it's not. And it's pressure. It's pressure straight away on the show, on the fight, isn't it? When you're saying that's, like you say, that's a lot of money, and I think people will pick one of the 2, or I don't know, might get a dodgy stream up or something like that. But they must have found a sweet spot where they're like, okay, loads of people aren't going to bother buying, but we'll get enough here to make enough money.
Well, and if you're on if you're the fight on a percentage of profits, and for example, maybe Dylan White's on a percentage of profits, and he's thinking, right, I hope this pay-per-view sells. Oh no, I have got to now go head to head with Josh Taylor, who you got to pay for as well. Or even worst case, you didn't, you know, because then I watch this free boxing as opposed to paying for this boxing. And it's like, or am I going to go to bed early and set the alarm and get up in the morning and watch Saunders, which I've also got to pay for. So cuts, again, it'll have to increase the quality, really.
Do you think it will?
If there's only one network that's putting out the fights that you really want to see, then yeah, if you can't afford it, boxing definitely isn't shouldn't be added to your utility bill as a must-have. You know, it should be a free service. You know, I hear it enough with people moaning about having to pay to watch football, and that football should be football and church should both be free, but boxing ain't on that level yet. And you know, ITV have had a go, but I think they've recently pulled out of or announced that they're no longer doing pay-per-view. Don't know if they've teamed up with BT because they did a lot of promotion for Fury's fight on BT. So yeah, there's competition out there, which hopefully means better boxing, but as always, it means the public got to pay for it.
Just picking up what you said, percentage of profits, there'll be a lot of people who aren't sure what that means. So what does that mean? So Dylan White, if he's on a percentage of profits for this fight against Povetkin on pay-per-view, how does that mean he gets paid? What is he? So
percentage of profits is, as you can imagine, is the show, income down one side, expenses the other. You add it all up, whatever's left over, you're taking a percentage of that, depending on what you've negotiated with the promoter. So that show will be promoted by Matchroom. Matchroom likely will make a lot of decisions. If you're the A side of that. So I've been in a situation where I've been the A side of the card, and I'll have a say, or maybe even I can put a budget in place for certain things. I remember I did a percentage of profits with Carl Froch. He was on the bigger percentage, believe me. And but Eddie ran the show, and we had like agreed undercard fees, and they're like, "Oh, we want Digao on there." I was like, "All right, want to pay him this much?" No. He goes, "Oh, we got to pay him." I said, "Well, you know, I don't think he brings any value." And then I think Eddie had to pay him out of his own pocket for that one, because I couldn't agree that. But yeah, that's essentially what it is. So
when you say income, you're talking gate and pay-per-view, basically.
I mean, they're the significant ones. Yeah, you know, sometimes
Foreign
a bit of
TV.
sponsorship, foreign TV come in, but they are just a bit of loose change compared to, you know, if you've done a big gate, if you're doing an O2 and you're selling 17,000 tickets, you work out the average ticket price, take the VAT off, you work out what the venue costs. Everyone at home can do the math. You know, but really the pay-per-view's the variable, because you know whether the tickets have sold come fight week or not. You might have a little surge of sales if something interesting happens the last week and there's tickets for sale, but 9 times out of 10 you know exactly where you're at with that. But pay-per-view, yeah, they'll be trailing it, but there is a big large spike the last 2 days, and you want to know, you know, if there is free boxing on it. You know, I know the guys, say at Sky, who might be up against a Channel 5 show, which is free, and it's, you know, it's not comparable in terms of the quality, but there might be a couple of casual boxing fans out there who are boxing, free boxing, 25 quid. Oh, we just watched the free boxing tonight, you know? So, yeah, that'll make it, I suppose, definitely tougher for the pay-per-view market when you're talking about subscription, because people subscribe and they don't think about it again. It gets whipped out of their bank. It's only when they check their statement every so often and they think, I haven't watched that channel in 3 months. So
I got Netflix. I haven't watched it for months. Reminds me.
There's some terrible stuff on Netflix.
Yeah. When was the last time, though, without wishing to denigrate Netflix, when was the last time you thought of a film, typed it in, and it was actually there? It's never there.
Yeah, no. You have to wait for someone to tell you what to watch on Netflix and then watch it. And then...
tweet us your ideas.
But, yeah. I watched Stranger. Did you see Stranger yet?
No.
Yes.
Horrific. You liked it, didn't you? Is it The Stranger? Is it Stranger?
Hang on, remind me again.
I haven't watched it.
It's British.
Yeah.
Lots of different storylines.
Yeah.
Worth a watch?
It's got
Dylan
Saunders in it.
Billy Joe.
Yeah, Billy Joe's in it. He's a lead. No, watch it. It's really good. Tweet us in your views.
Yeah.
But I mean, actually, come back to pay-per-views. We've got May, this one, June. No, 2 in May. Chisora Usyk.
Yeah.
June, Joshua. July,
Fury.
I hope no one's planning a summer holiday if you
No.
like boxing, because that's a lot of money.
It's not cheap, and then I assume we'll get another few before the end of the year as well.
Absolutely.
But yeah.
Just on that White Povetkin, obviously that is the main event, but Katie Taylor will take on Amanda Serrano
Great fight.
in that fight. I know you followed Katie Taylor pretty closely,
Yeah.
Declan. I appreciate she's very good. But aside from that, there are lots of talented female boxers. Why is Katie Taylor sort of broken through the mold? Why is she the trailblazer?
Well, she was sort of the first one, based not only on timing, but obviously she's incredibly talented anyway. She did it all as an amateur, and then the timing worked. Obviously, she had a miserable Olympics in Rio, and she literally DM'd Eddie Hearn on Twitter saying, "I think I'm going to go professional." She hadn't really thought about it, but then she wanted to change. So timing-wise, Eddie thought about it, got her on Sky, got headlining shows. That's just how the cookie crumbled for her. Obviously, it's a talent that speaks for itself. She's done everything right as a professional. This has been the fight. And the main problem with women's boxing we've seen since it sort of re-emerged or emerged for the first time on this scale anyway, is that there's been a few matchups that people actually want to see. You know, when you're in the pub or when you're talking about boxing, it's always, I want to see him fight him, or how do you think? But with women's boxing, there's been really a lack of that. You can't really match people up. This was one of the few that has always been talked about. I remember I was at a fight in New York. I can't remember what was the main event. It might have been De Gale against Badu Jack, and Serrano was on the undercard, and Katie Taylor came down from Connecticut just to watch it. So that was years ago. And so this one's been bubbling away. They haven't been able to make it for a long time. They've made it now for all the belts. Serrano, like 6-7 weight world champion or something. She won the super flyweight title a year ago. 12 months ago, she was boxing at that weight. Now she's boxing at lightweight. I think she's too small. Taylor's already beaten her sister Cindy comfortably in a weird fight where Cindy's husband, who's also her trainer, is on the ring, banging on the ring, during round, saying, "You've picked the rubbish sister. You wait till you get the good one." Saying that about his own wife.
Oh dear.
That was a bit strange, but yeah, they're finally getting it on. It's going to be, I guess, the biggest women's fight in certainly of the new era, and one of the biggest ever. We'll see how it goes. Yeah, it's a great fight. It's good. It's a really nice support for that White Povetkin, and it's a bit like when she was on the undercard of Joshua losing against Ruiz. All the eyeballs are on it, and people, you can't help that fight against Bassoon. You can't help but get enthralled by it. It was a full arena at that point. Did amazing things for women's boxing, and yeah, I mean, Katie Taylor's not going to be around forever. She's achieved a lot already. She says she wants another 10 fights or something like that, but you know, we need to appreciate her when she's here, and I think this is going to be a real good one for her. I just feel like Serrano's too small there.
Taylor is the 2-5 favourite, Serrano 2-1 with Betfair. I think that's the key with the pay-per-views, George, is, I mean, White Povetkin, listen, it could be explosive. It should be explosive. Is it a fight I necessarily want to see? Not really. The key, therefore, then build the pay-per-view, right? So make sure, so a fight like Taylor Serrano is exactly what should be happening as the sort of co-main event.
Yeah, well, yeah, it definitely has to happen, and that's kind of the pay-per-view mold now. Is that you're not paying for the fight, you're paying for the show. Yeah, maybe everyone else saw it. I didn't even really see the White Povetkin thing a month ago coming off. I thought Povetkin was lucky to get a draw in Saudi. I thought Hunter beat him enough. I think Hunter versus White is a much more interesting fight. But I suppose Povetkin's got more of the name, and therefore is more achievable. More he's got more green lights for the pay-per-view. But yeah, I think this would be a far more. This would be a great fight, interesting fight. Taylor Serrano. So yeah, likewise, great example on the Ruiz Joshua undercard. It was best female fight I think I've probably ever seen. A lot of people agreed with me. So fantastic fight, and Taylor definitely, as you say, appreciate her while she's here.
Just on White, Declan, to be fair, we have to have some sympathy with him. He's been waiting for a world title shot for a long time, so he is kind of just taking over. But Povetkin is past it, definitely. I know he'll bring it fine, but Fury took him the distance.
I mean, he's past his peak, you would say, but he's still dangerous, and he can still punch. And I'm with George though. I didn't really see. This is not a fight that I was crying out for. Certainly not a fight that if I was at home, I'm in an iron about paying 25 quid. Would I pay for it? Probably not. But I mean, it's still a good fight. And like the thing with White, we said it all along, is that he's been ticking over for so long and he's never got his shot. On the one hand, to play devil's advocate, he's turned down some significant fights. We hear things like Pulev in the final eliminator. He turned down Joshua for a lot of money at Wembley.
That's true.
So he's had little opportunities, but he's backed himself to go a different route. Now, this is what I'm doing. Obviously, now Povetkin is on that because he's going to get paid well for it, and it's another big one. He knows, looking at the landscape, that really the belts are tied up now until at least the start of next year at best. That's if Joshua and Fury and all goes well, they meet at the end of this year, which is fanciful. Then we're looking at next summer. So then he won't fight again actually until 2021 for a world title. So like, he has to do something, doesn't he? And you'd rather go, just get me a pay-per-view fight, get me someone, get Povetkin in because people know about him, rather than, I don't know, go and chief support on a pay-per-view or something like that. So, I don't know. I think Povetkin will bring it. I think it's a good style. People love heavyweight. Casual boxing fans love heavyweights, especially people like Povetkin, who throws basically overhand rights non-stop. Like, that's what he's going to look for the whole fight. Could land one. And then, White's going to bring it. He didn't have a good night in Saudi. He won, but it wasn't like people were crying out to see him, in action again. I think this one will bring the best out of him. I think it's a good fight.
Okay. I stand corrected once again every single week. That is enough. That is all for this week. If you are watching on YouTube, please like and please subscribe. And we will be back, of course, same time, same place next week.